Do you have a process that you work with, or is everything done in a different way?
No, there was a very strong process at the beginning. Also when I was just teaching, and there was lots of taboos. I mean, we would not allow students to use yellow trays. No one is allowed to shade. No one was allowed to cross corners. You can't use pencil drawings. You can't hatch with biro pen. You can't use felt pen. You can't use magic markers. You can't set them across. So anything, but it was injured, anything to do with kind of antiquity was erased from the unit, and only plastic was allowed. Mylar ink, acrylic, anything made in the 20th century was allowed, and the rest of it was.
Looking at the drawings downstairs with your ink drawings at the peak.
Oh my God.
They seem so far away now. I mean, there's no communication is not the same now. In quite a quick period.
Yeah, I still think there are. I love those. I do like the ink drawings. Yeah. I do like the drawing process, and I do miss it. Because I think it also is you have to have an extremely steady hand and a good sight, and it took hours of passion to do them. And they were very important because when you do them, you do ponder, on things. I used to. There was no students there, and in my 4th year, there was a moment at the end of the year when Raman Eden declared that I was the only one in the class that understood anything. And that was completely a shock to me. I'd gone to the AA and told my teammates that, my God, they're going to kill me upstairs, and, blah, blah. And they said, oh, they think you're wonderful. I said, oh, no, I don't think so. So anyway, and then I said, but your drawings are terrible. So the story, then they gave me the room, and of course, I used to tell people that he locked me out. And he would come every hour and say, do you need anything? Can I get you a drink? Do you want to go somewhere? I could go to the toilet. And he didn't understand that I couldn't get out from the registrar's office. There was another door. So, and he told everybody, he has this, princess locked up on the top floor of the AA. So that's when I started to draw there. Now, what happened was I could not really, I realized then that I could not express what I wanted spatially through normal drawings, a normative process, and that I needed some other thing. But also, Raman Eden already began doing some of his drawings, and Maddie and Zoe doing these paintings. It wasn't necessarily my invention, but I think that the abstraction, combined with abstraction and the importance of the method of drawing, which I think became another method. I think the drawing really was more than a process of drawing or graphic. So the idea of drawing or many layers of trays made it possible to think about layering in terms of a process and the evolution of the city. Superimposing images over each other by hand, and some things would appear, sometimes would disappear, was also having an impact on the architecture. So it was no longer just a graphic interpretation. And the abstraction obviously was very critical in terms of site analysis, because you can abstract certain things, and some things in the site would you pick out certain lines, and they become very important as a way of engaging the site and how you unravel the site.
You said time to think, which is very
it was very, very important. And I did another, which is not here, a book on the Irish house, where many things were cut out, and that was an early process about, carving. So I think all these processes had a real impact at the time on the work itself, which was obviously very important. It was always, we always did everything at the same time. Drawing, painting, models, ink, everything.
The models also downstairs are extraordinary in the range of different techniques that you use. Some are paper, some are, I guess, the transparent model of Cincinnati, that's perspex.
Well, I think the early models of Azerbaijan to Megai, which were all transparent, and we begin to see through the whole building. And I think the major shift was also in the Kudan project, where the idea of shifting of circulation, and you don't have to circulation that it runs at the same time, so it can run around the side, and also the correlation between transparent models and X-ray drawings. The X-ray drawing came first, and then the drawing.
And you see those as tools rather than representations for other people?
No, they were definitely tools, but if I look back at them, they obviously have certain implications, like, seamlessness and, stuff like this.
And the fly-through is the biggest invention in architecture since perspective, I guess, and you use them a lot.
Yeah.
Just that it changes the way that you work or the client. And again, it seems like looking at the fly-through, suddenly you realise that architecture can no longer surprise the client. In the past, there was always the sense that they couldn't quite read the drawing, but the fly-through does give them.
Yeah, it does give them. I think that. Well, I don't know. I think the drawing were not supposed to describe precisely what it is. It was supposed to give a kind of a glimpse or a feeling of what it might be to be in that space.
I always have the sense, looking at it, that you live in them as much as you do in the buildings.
Yeah, I do. I remember kind of, talking to Alan about this a long time ago. Alan Wierawski, who also led to a lot. And he was one of the very few people at the time, really, when he touched the drawing, he really walked through it. He really kind of went up the stairs and occupied it. And by watching him do that, you can have a sense about what somebody could feel like walking in these spaces.
And that struck me also about the way that you insisted on including images that show the exhibitions you've designed, the sets you've designed. To me, they all seem to be part of a seamless whole. That doing them is as important as building them, is that?
Yeah, we didn't do them at the time because we didn't have much work, but I really always thought exhibition, I always believed in because, in the early period, and to this day, with the time, it was the only outlet we had to communicate the work to other people for these exhibitions, and also in lectures. But I always thought all these kind of experiments in different fields, they're always added to the overall process, and it helps us understand space in different ways.
Looking at your sketchbooks, are those the starting points and that you sketch and a model is made from that?
Not necessarily. It used to be more like that. There could be also done during. There could be also the opposite of what I was working on, because I never like what anybody does. So I would be always doing something completely different. What is interesting about the sketches, and not the ones here maybe also, is that it took us quite some time to realize the implication of the sketch. For example, this kind of colliding, like the sketch which eventually became kind of Rome. I started off with the Islamic Museum in Qatar and had a few takes before it really, we understood how they could translate.
You were doing furniture right from the beginning as well, the early apartment pieces, but now more and more. Again, is that living in the same landscape, or are they different?
No, they're the same landscape. Of course, they have kind of different qualities, but they're not really a fragment. They're just kind of a test of certain ideas within the field, because we do kind of really oscillate between a field and an object, and they're like one of the pieces of the object within the field.